Welcome to the Recovering Baptist podcast. We are going to respond. We're going to react. We're going to have a few special, specials that are for you tonight. But I want to hear from you. I'm going to be in the chat, and we're about a 10-second delay. I would love to hear how you're feeling tonight. Like, where do you see the election settling in at? Like, where do you see, whether it's prophetic, whether it's your just your feelings, maybe you've studied this. Just let me know where you are in this. It's going to take it a little bit to get there. It's crazy right now. Like, there is a trivia night that's going on right under us. And normally we can never hear it, but it's like booming right now. So where's your heart? Where do you feel like, give me a percentage. Do you think Trump's going to win? Do you think it's going to be close? Do you feel like it's going to be a landslide? Michelle says she's excited for Trump to win this one. She's excited. So the void stares back. I'd like to know the story behind the void stares back. This is going to be an interesting one. Carrie's excited, along with Allie. So how many people are watching over at Brother Kevin Eddie's house as he's sitting on the couch? It's funny. So as your answers up, I feel like bad leaders got judgment. Yeah, I'm actually with you on that one, Dan. 70-30 Trump. There's a percentage. 70-30. That's bold coming from the prophetess. What else? Who else? What do you got? We got 70-30. Get it for a second. I'm ready. Trump and Mark Robinson for the win. I'm with you on that. 4 of us. That's cool. That's beautiful. So I don't know about you. Like, there's a prophetic side of me that's just been like, just wrestling over the last couple of days. I feel like there's so much coming at the body of Christ right now. And for those that are asleep, it may be hard to perceive. But there's so much witchcraft. There's so much accusation, criticism, strife that's coming at the church and within the church. That if Trump doesn't win, I believe it's because of the church. And I believe I heard a statistic, and you guys might be able to correct me on this, but I would say that there are like close to 30 million Christians, supposedly Christians, who are not going to vote supposedly in this election. And to me, that is asinine. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. And for various reasons, a lot of people think that their vote doesn't count, that it doesn't matter, that church and politics should be separate. And to be honest, I don't find that in Scripture. I don't find the church and politics, because think of who Paul ministered to. Think of who threw him in prison. Think of the leaders of the day. It was Rome, and constant battle between the Christians in Rome and, of course, the religious leaders. But I believe the deception of staying out of politics is one of the main issues. Imagine not being engaged in the thing that determines law. Think about that for a second. the thing that determines law, that determines major decisions, it really hinders on it's really hindering upon who's in office. Should be we the people, right? Well, I want to just ask where your heart is right now. I'm telling you, there's kind of like a wrestling match that's going on within me. And I believe there's an oscillation that's between God's judgment and God's mercy. His judgment and his mercy. His judgment and his mercy. Because if it were, think of all of the rebellion. Think of all the corruption. Think of all the perversion that's going on within America today. It's almost like there's an anticipation of God's judgment, but at the same time, an expectation or a desire of his mercy. We can't go but for so much longer of sacrificing babies, of literally child sacrifice, before it hits a place of like God's wrath. So there's a lot of emotions, a lot of things that's going on within just me personally. But I want to share a little bit about last week I went away, and I got away with the Lord, and I do this from 6 to 8 weeks. Every 6 to 8 weeks, I try to get away. And this trip was really interesting. I get away and I just turn everything off and just sit with the Lord. And this time I've had to face this before, but I had to really turn and face the Lord with a couple of issues. And if you've been watching the podcast over the last couple of weeks, as we talk about Jezebel, as we talk about Halloween, as we talk about the Recovering Baptist, of what it means to really break the back of hypocrisy, it's like the Lord took a mirror and just put it before me. And there are issues within my own heart that I haven't wanted to really address. I felt like I addressed some of these things, but in reality, I haven't. I've kind of swept them under the rug. I haven't been willing to really face them. And there's been circumstances and situations that pop up that really just poke me. And on this trip, typically there's rest. Typically there's direction. There's an infilling of the Spirit, just a refreshing. But this one was, I literally feel like I got beat up. And part of the process of getting beat up was understanding that if I'm going to lead a ministry, if I'm going to lead a church, and it's our mission to help people transition from religion into revival. If we are going to be an apostolic training center, and if oil flows from the top down, then if we're going to break the back of hypocrisy, then it has to start with me. It has to start with my family. And I've got this sacred space that I call my office. And it's over here. It's about maybe a 100-foot walk from a football field away from where we gather sometimes. And I sat back and realized, I heard this from the Lord. He's like, you need to get your house in order before you can go back to the office. And when he said that, I got really ticked off. And I was aggravated because there's some issues that are personally connected to my heart that need to be addressed. And the only way that I can address them is by getting my house in order. And what that means is like literally doing like some deep cleaning, some organization, addressing the garage, addressing the gym, addressing some of closet stuff. And I got really aggravated. I even tried to come into the office today. And I sat in the office rebelliously. It was like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to study. I'm going to wait on you, Lord. Nothing. And I was frustrated. I was aggravated. I'm like, here's where I usually hear from you. This is my place of peace. This is where I go to lock away with you. This is like my secret place. And it was like the secret place vanished. And it was not here. And my family, my littlest two, they were out of school, so they did some shopping today. And so the house was open, and I just went, and I was like, I'm not going to clean. I'm not going to organize. I'm just going to be whatever you want to say. So I sat, and all of a sudden the grace came upon me. And so I got some things done around the house that I normally wouldn't do. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm actually getting to a place, and it's actually coming back to the election. And I got to this place where I could hear the Holy Spirit very personally as I was cleaning, as I was organizing, as I was doing some things that I needed to do previously. And the Lord showed me that my heart is deeply attached to these things, whether it's my car, whether it's my house, whether it's my closet, my chest of drawers, like whatever it is, there's a connection there, and it doesn't make logical sense because I'm a really organized person. And I like things in a certain place, but over the last dozen years, I've just compartmentalized that. And part of what makes my office my special place is because I can control it. Like it's my place where nobody's there, nobody can interrupt it. And in a lot of ways, in the last couple of days, it feels like it's not even my space anymore. And so as I was organizing, as I was cleaning, it was like I could sense a settling in my heart. And he began showing me things, and I began to understand why I was feeling the emotions that I was feeling, and I could see what I was clearly running from. And so I recognized that if I am to be the leader that God's called me to be, just as much as I challenge you guys to go through the process, I myself have to turn and face certain things. And my heart has been broken in a couple of areas. It's been really affected. And for whatever reason, I felt like I was led to share this with you tonight, that the faster that you yield to the process, the quicker that you honestly turn and face the Lord, the person of the Holy Spirit, with whatever you're going through, the easier, I wouldn't say easier, the more peace you're going to feel. And as I came in to talk to the guys before coming live with you, I was able to identify some of the things that had been bothering me, some of the things that I was going through. And it was like just voicing them with someone brought even more light. And so one of the hardest things to do as a leader is to lead people while you're in process. It's to lead people while you yourself are going through something. If anybody acts like they're not going through a process, they act like they have it all together, that's a person I wouldn't trust. And we're not supposed to put our trust in people anyway. And so when I finally yielded today, I got emotional with my wife. I didn't understand how these two things were connected, but it's by faith. That the things that I've been putting off, the things that I've been running from and avoiding, were directly connected to like a deep part within me. And I'd like to be a little bit more transparent, but I just, for sake of the situation, like it's deeply personal from my childhood. And I just felt like I touched something that I'd been desiring to touch, but had been afraid to. And I pray that you can see yourselves with sobriety, with humility, and really just transparency. So much of the Jezebel spirit comes in through performance, overcompensation, hurt, offense. And when this spirit comes in, it skews things, but really what it does is it hardens your heart. And it keeps your heart closed off. Not so much to people, although that's one aspect of it, but to him, to the person of the Holy Spirit. And there's things that he's going to ask you to do that may not make sense, but they make faith. And if they make faith, that's the perfect place to be, because faith is what pleases the Lord. Now, how does this relate to the election? We're in a spot right now where we can't control this. And it truly is like out of our hands right now. And I want to say this about Donald Trump. You're not electing a pastor. You're not voting for a friend, a shepherd, a church leader. It takes a unique person to withstand the onslaught that has come against this man. And there's things that I wish he would not say, and there's ways that I wish he would respond differently, especially when he's asked certain questions and his buttons get pushed. But I have to tell you that there is no other person that I know that could withstand the onslaught, the fiery darts, the witchcraft. You know, right now, there are witches that are like 24/7 doing incantations, spells, sacrifices that are happening right now. And if those in the witchcraft kingdom are interceding from a demonic standpoint, how much more should the church? But I want to challenge you, regardless of how you feel about Trump, he's not your pastor, he's not your friend, he's not your church leader, he's not even your Christian representative. He is the leader who I believe that God has chosen to usher in God's mercy. Because at the end of the day, the enemy is trying to get World War III to happen before the church is ready. And it is God's mercy to delay that. You're watching over the last couple years the trajectory of conflict exponentially increase. And so we're not electing someone that we like. We're electing someone that is not built like us. Because chances are, like, we really couldn't handle, and we probably would have given up already. And so as we look at the election results here in a second, as we dive into the numbers, I want you to remember we are, as the body of Christ, it's God's perfect will for us to be on his timeline and not the enemy's. And if we shift gears and we come on the enemy's timeline, meaning that things move faster than they're supposed to do, because that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants you to get outside of God's timeline and to speed things up. But I believe that God's mercy is at hand. And if this doesn't come through, the only place we can put blame is on the church. We can't blame this person. We can't blame that person. We can't do this. We have to take responsibility as born again believers. Like, this is real. So prophetically speaking, everything changes from this night forward. Everything. And it doesn't get better. And there's not necessarily a sigh of relief if President Trump is elected. Because I want to prophetically say to you, the worst battle is going to start from tomorrow until the inauguration. If you think that the left is going to go quietly after a defeat, we've got another thing coming. Because I believe that even prophetically, that there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of conflict, and a push for deeper war, all before he gets inaugurated. And on the other end of that, what's going to happen when maybe they don't allow him? What happens if they invoke the 14th Amendment and say that he's not able to because he's being prosecuted even further? Like, there's all these scenarios that can play out that we have to be still in prayer for, because the enemy wants to take him out. The left wants to take him out. They've already tried multiple times. And so it is our responsibility, regardless of what happens tonight, to continue to pray, to fast, to intercede as the Lord leads. That really what happens from this moment forward, it's not on the world. It's on the church. We are to be salt and light. Salt preserves. It's like sugar decays. Salt preserves, and we are to be salt and light. And so regardless of what happens tonight, we've got a calling. We got a mandate. You ready to dive in? So let's see what's going on Fox News. Noah, can you pull up the screen? So this is where we get a little bit looser. Commercial break, awesome. So right now, if I'm reading this correctly, we're sitting at 178 Trump, 99 Harris. I'm going to refresh this. Yep. And one of the things, ooh, that sounds weird.
I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here on this election night. I want to bring into the conversation my colleague Austin Westfall here in the Live Now newsroom, and 24 Sites, Tom LoBianco. We all are here tracking all of this, and we have a lot to get to. Let's first start off right now. Where does the Electoral College stand at 9:30 Eastern, Austin?
Right now, the Electoral College, and let's get over to this because we are starting to see Trump 178 here, and we'll make sure that we've got the map up because Trump is getting, right now, he is just under 100 points away from that magic number 270. Harris with 99. There are still a lot of big Democratic states that are yet to be called. California, Oregon, Washington, those are going to be some of the bigger states that are going to put some more votes on the Harris side. Nonetheless, we're, of course, tracking all the battleground states, that being Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia. We have no results yet out of the two western battleground states, Arizona and Nevada. But as you can see so far right now, as we look at Wisconsin, at least where it stands, with 12% of the votes counted, it looks like this battleground state, Trump has a 4-point lead so far. That state leaning red at this early hour. Michigan, let's look at that. 12% of the votes counted. Right now, Harris has about an 8% lead in Michigan. Pennsylvania, what many consider to be, it's an easy argument to be made, that this is the most crucial battleground state of them all. Just over a quarter of the votes have been tallied so far, and right now Harris has an 11-point lead over Donald Trump. We'll see if more Republican votes file in as the night progresses. Of course, every single poll has indicated that that is as tight as can be. Moving down to some of these southern states, let's focus on North Carolina. 58% of the vote being tallied so far, and right now Trump has about a 4-point lead. Excuse me, that's looking more like a 3-point lead for Trump in the Tar Heel state. The final one I'll get to here is Georgia. Andrew, 75% of the vote tallied. 3/4 of the vote is in the Peach State. Trump has a 5.4% lead. That's where we're at right now.
All right, Austin, thanks so much. Tom, with whatever Austin just said there, kind of giving the roundup of the battleground states, can we glean anything from them, from the results coming in right now?
Yeah, and super helpful there. Look, the numbers that we are seeing right now from Georgia and North Carolina really seem to show him running away with it down in the Sun Belt, okay, especially in Georgia, all right? Now, this is very tentative, but some of the early exit polls we have seen have shown Trump performing, a lot more men voters showing up and supporting Trump, all right? And that's a really big dynamic. We've talked a lot about women voters with Harris, all right? But up in the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, all right, Pennsylvania, especially in Wisconsin and Michigan, we're still not too many returns yet. I think I saw like 9% returns, something like that, up in Wisconsin. So it's going to be a little while before we see what's happening up in the Rust Belt, Blue Wall. But down the Sun Belt, especially in Georgia, it's looking really good for Trump right now.
Yeah, so I would just say this, like, for those that are new to this, some of you guys are just
all right, we do
voting
have live
for
pictures there inside the Trump-Vance election night watch party.
Maybe
we also
mute
have live pictures.
So one of the things that we have seen, there we go. Okay. So one of the things, like, if we can just pull up the electoral college as I talk, one of the things that, if you're new to this, like, there's so much I could say that I'm not going to say, but I just want to say this, like, we got to be patient. For whatever is unfolding, we got to be patient. As you can hear, like, the battleground states are the most pivotal, and specifically Pennsylvania is the one for us to really watch in regards to really taking the step forward. So I just want to tell you, like, just be patient, and these numbers are going to shift. They're going to change, but we may not have a result until tomorrow morning. But we're going to be watching this closely, specifically looking at Pennsylvania is a big deal. That's cool. Yeah, can we zoom in on North Carolina? Can you click on that? And of course, the two major blue are going to be Charlotte, like Mecklenburg and Wake County. That makes the most sense. And so for those of you that are just new to this, what you're seeing right now is counties that have reported counts, like votes. And the blues are obviously going to be the blue counties. The red, which is a really dark red, are going to be the Republican counties. And it might look like it's a swarm of red, but the more populated areas are typically right now in the blue. And so it's not a really good indicator of having it all red. You can have a majority of red and only having a couple of counties blue, and it still take the majority because of the population that's there. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So tell me, it's going to be a delay, but tell me, like, when you look at this, what do you feel like the Lord's showing you? What is he speaking? Hey, we got a quiz we can put in here. Is that even possible? You got a quiz you can put in here? So what do you see when you're looking at this? As they're doing the quiz. So Noah, you want to get on the ones and twos too? You get the camera on you? You're going to see behind the scenes now. There's Noah.
What's up?
Hey, Noah.
Hey.
What do you see? What's going on?
Nothing much.
Besides
really.
the ones and twos that you're on?
Nothing much, really. I mean, it's about as consistent as you were saying. Not going to really know much until it goes further into the night. Especially when more of the West starts getting up, because that's where a good bit of the electoral college votes are. So probably around 11 to 12, we'll start really seeing where it goes.
Cool. Well, let's pop it on the, let's see what Fox News is doing now.
No,
And we'll just leave it there for a little while.
Give it a second.
Maybe you just can't win statewide, or at least in these Senate races.
Yeah.
So, Tom, talk to us, because there are several examples around the country, correct, of some of these competitive races where the candidates have had to move more to the center in order to win votes in these battleground states. Can you talk about some of the notable ones?
Well, you know,
I mean,
we
did
used
Larry
to say
Hogan
40
try to
years
do that?
ago,
Tom,
50
did Larry
years
Hogan
ago,
try
all
to do
politics
that
is
and it didn't
local.
work?
I think it's all politics is national now. I'm not sure that you can break away from this stuff. I remember I was up at the state fair in Maryland not too long ago, and you had the Larry Hogan signs next to the Donald Trump signs at the Maryland Republican Party booth. And you could tell he didn't want anything to do with it. All politics is really national now. It's changed so much from the way it used to be.
All right, we do have some more of these results coming in. We want to stay, though, on the
waiting.
Senate races. Let's focus our efforts on Texas right now. We just got this live picture up there. This is in Texas at the Colin Allred election night watch party here. Let's put up that race right now. This is quite a sizable lead Cruz has over Allred at the moment. 64% of estimated votes counted. Democrats were somewhat bullish here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, were Republicans worried about how Ted Cruz would do? The race hasn't been called yet, but we see the vote spread here.
Well, you know, my Republican sources were never really worried about the Cruz race. I think you heard more from Democratic sources that, you know, they might be able to, ride a wave of support from women in this election, and, you know, maybe potentially get Allred up over the top. You know, Cruz historically has been fairly unpopular, as statewide go for Texas, but that doesn't seem to be the case right so far. But again, you know, we've still got 1/3 of the vote still to come in. That could change, but you know, as these race calls go, it becomes harder later in when you have more of the precincts reporting. It becomes a lot harder for these candidates to overtake a gap of that size. So it looks like Cruz is in pretty good position right now.
Even though Texas is a deep red state, is there anything to learn from some of the counties within a deep red state like that?
Well, it's, you know, we've been talking about this as the gender election. And, you know, boy, you talk about, groups of voters that are not a monolith. Men and women are not monolithic. They do not vote uniformly. Okay. I think we really got to look at and especially as the exit polls come back more, you know, and we match that up with the actual vote tallies. I think we're going to have to look at some of the key dynamics, what people are talking about, what concerns them. You know, abortion is not the only animating issue for women. I heard a lot about the economy, too. And Trump seems to do better on the economy with women. But that's also not always the case, because Harris has been cutting, it had been cutting into that. So it's elections are always wild. There's always surprises on election night.
Tom, while we have you, though, let's focus our efforts on one more key Senate race we're watching. Let's go to Wisconsin now, between Democratic incumbent Tammy Baldwin and her Republican challenger, Eric Hovde there. This is only with around 22% of estimated votes counted. Baldwin up over Hovde, not by much, though. How much trouble is Tammy Baldwin in? Should Democrats be worried?
Could be. This is, okay, so we were talking earlier about split ticket voting. This is one of the strangest things I've seen this election. Tammy Baldwin had put out some mailers or advertisements where the Democrats was talking about supporting Trump trade policies back when he was in office. I mean, the political bedfellows this cycle are some of the strangest I've ever seen. Now, she could be in good shape. One of the things, over on the 24 Site podcast, the Ground Game podcast I run out of 24 Site with my friend Patrick Finkston, we had on Charlie Sykes a little while ago, and he was talking about how Republicans used to have a very good ground operation in Wisconsin. Scott Walker, Wrights Previs, back in the day.
That's cool.
About a decade
Mute that
ago.
if you can.
Democrats have usurped that.
So I'd like to hear from you guys in the chat. Like, what are the main key issues that that are important to you? Like, what are the things when it comes to voting, when it comes to government specifically? Like, what's been the most important for you this election year? And if we could can we keep that screen up, even if I'm smaller, and just that way when something interesting pops up, we'll scoot over to it. So what do you feel like what is most important to you? What's most interesting, or how many people got that right? And it's cool. So for me, obviously it would be the life. Like, abortion's obviously a big issue. What would be one of the most important issues for you? Trying to look, is this the camera? Yep. Okay, cool. See how big the delay is. Freedom of speech. Yeah. What else we got? So cost of living, life, family, abortion, border control are big. Economy has taken a big hit. Yep. Yeah. Keeping other countries off our back. You know what's interesting? I feel like the divide between the left and right is so obvious right now. And I'm not sure if you even have looked at what's been going on politically. But when you sit and you watch the left's version of what's going on and the right's version, it's like two total polar opposites of what's really going on. You will get a spin of one way and a spin of another way. And you'll literally think that they're seeing things completely different. And we just had Joe Rogan come out and support Trump. And he interviewed Elon Musk earlier today, or yesterday it aired. And Elon Musk, which is really random, really interesting that he's backing Trump. It's fascinating to me. But as he's backing him, he's speaking more about the border crisis and how the influx of illegal immigrants are being bussed into these swing states. And so as they are bussed into these swing states, what he's basically saying, and he said this on Joe Rogan, was that Elon Musk was communicating that this could be the last true election. Because as 200,000 people are brought into these swing states, some of the differentiating votes are like 20 to 30,000. And majority of them would vote Democrat because of wanting their family to get across, wanting their friends and the benefits that come really with how they've been allowed to enter in. And so he's projecting that if Trump does not win, that this would be the end of the electoral system as we know it, because the results will be rigged because of what they're intentionally doing. And while we're doing that, like, can you look up that interview? Like, if you just go to YouTube, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and just see if we can pull that up to watch that. Might have to bleep something out, but it's all right. So, freedom in general, sanctity of life, national security. It's interesting because in North Carolina, I feel like we're in a protective bubble in some of this. And so, yeah, it's just really interesting. How have you seen the church become complacent in these last, well, let's say the last 4 years? Even going back to COVID, how have you seen the church become complacent? I think it's about a 10 second delay. No, so if it should be, there was like a 8-minute version, 8 to 11-minute version. We can try it and just see. Now, if there's some curse words in here, I apologize. So, like, if you actually Google, you got it? We can try it. You're good. Freedom and so especially during COVID, I feel like the church was really I think bias about restrictions to gathering, very passive. Yeah, I mean specifically in more conservative and less conservative churches. I remember as a youth minister during this time, we only closed the doors, I believe, 1 week and then maybe another section of Sundays. And the fact that ABC stores were allowed to be open, but churches had to close, I feel like it was like a test run for what's to come, and that a lot of our freedoms they were just stolen. And as we willingly had given them up. Anything else? Let's see. So I'm not sure what this is. We'll see what this is going to be. Yeah, this is the spot.
Just he's like there as part of the support. And then they turned it around and just started roasting Trump. And he's just sitting there. He's like, yo, I just came to the dinner. I'm just here to support.
We know what it was because of, right? The birther stuff.
Just go like three.
That's
That's
what it all was. Forward. It was all, Trump was at the head of, but most people would have quit. Yeah. Most people, up to the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit and this lawsuit and all the other ones, the insurrection thing, the Georgia thing, all these different things, they getting kicked off of Twitter. Most people would have just like, this is too much. I can't take this. But he's so fucking crazy. He's like, all right, come on, we're going to war. And he just digs his fucking heels in and keeps going.
Yeah.
It's the wrong guy to do that.
I didn't think it was going to be that bad. So basically what he goes on to say... What he goes on to say is basically that there's not many people that can take the punishment and get back up and fight. And what they were referring to was that he was at a dinner where they're supposed to roast the president, and he was the target of the roasting. And as he was the target of the roasting, you could tell that he was getting mad, but he took it. But as he took it, it almost provoked him, because most people would have backed down. Most people would have tucked tail and run, but it provoked him. And as it provoked him, it was like the basis of his launch. I don't know if you guys know that he ran in 2000, or he was talking about running in 2000. I didn't realize that until the other day, that this is his third time running. And so as he was provoked, as he was challenged, they were supposed to be roasting, I believe it was Obama and McCain, maybe, I think, at the same time. But it ended up being he was the target of it. And so what Elon Musk was about to say before he got too filthy in the language was basically that Elon started watching and observing because he was at that banquet. And he started having more compassion for him because he's like, this guy's taking it. And he felt awkward because it was so pointed. And we're talking, this was 2016, maybe 2015, I think is when it was. But he's sitting there watching him take it. But then he goes on to say he talks about the influx of illegal immigrants in battleground states, and that we are to get out and vote like our lives depend upon it because of what's to come. So there you have it. Again, we're just flowing, dropping a couple of F-bombs. So Lord, we rebuke that F-bomb in Jesus' name. Let's see what's going on in Fox. Commercial break. All right. So somebody come talk to me. Who wants to come talk? Brianna says, I feel I haven't seen a lot of, yeah. Brianna says, I feel I have seen a lot of the church just say it is in God's hands, but really not praying, interceding, or seeking the Lord's heart on all of this. And she says that she was basically guilty of that too. That's a good word. Yeah, I feel like a lot of us were. Because during this time, Meredith and I were youth leaders, and we were attempting to try to steward, we weren't lead pastors, so we were trying to steward and uphold the vision of the pastor. And he was really good at really waiting till the last minute to make the decision. I feel like he had pressure. But I can't remember even the church itself praying or really standing. It was more this rally cry about we're not going to be told what to do, but
it's a really good point.
Like less about, yeah. Ziggy said, if the church could stand in unity and not in division.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. Like so you have a history in this.
Oh gosh.
So,
yes.
So I'll just leave it. You can talk about however much you want to talk about, but
man,
Christian's former life was deep in this, and a lot of our gathering doesn't even know most of it. So I'll let you talk about some of whatever you're able to talk about.
Man, gosh, the rally cry thing is actually really, really specific, because it's like, if we're involved, because as Christians, we're supposed to be involved in politics. Like, we're supposed to go forth and have dominion over this earth, not the world. So it just blows my mind how Christians don't want. And I looked it up, and that was from Vlad. I was gonna post it in the comments, but literally it was 40 million Christians have not voted. They're like, hey, we're just gonna pull back. That would have totally tipped the tide of the last election. So yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, the whole rallying cry thing is such an interesting thing. People are like, hey, let's get real zealful about something because this is a good emotional cause, and then we're just going to trickle off and go about our life, but we're not going to do anything that's going to make a difference over time, whether it's, actually praying, actually fasting, or doing things like that. So yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, and all my guys used to be back in that. So yeah, it's really delicate.
What kind of guys? No,
yeah, literally. So background with we had a farm store, and I was in that industry for several years, and all the guys that either worked with or for me were former law enforcement. They were executive protection guys. I almost went into executive protection myself. There, right before the Lord got a hold of me, I was going down that path to get into doing some specialized like contract work and things like that. So we had a lot of guys that were all for like building their own banking systems, building like this whole like living off the land type thing, but more of like compound, hey, we've got this person that can do this and this person can do that, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but all the motive was rebellion. And it was like, hey, let's look at the surface level of this, but not deal with the character issues that we have at home. So yeah, it's kind of like, hey, let's mow the grass, but not do the laundry. So yeah, it's really interesting. So I see a lot of people do that in church, and it's like that whole religious thing. We're going to get out and be really zealful, but we're not going to deal with stuff that actually needs to be dealt with that actually makes the difference in the long run.
Yeah, I think we can dig in that. So
yep.
Those of us, or those who can be zealful about causes or zealful about certain circumstances and situations. Like, what does it look like to be in rebellion and to back a certain cause? So like, I mean, there's people that are for Trump. There's people that are against Trump.
Yeah.
There's people that are for the election, and then there's people that are against the election. I'm not going to vote because it doesn't matter, or they think Trump's the Antichrist, or but there's like there's people, whether it's right or wrong, how does rebellion influence that?
As soon as you said that, I heard James 4. Like immediately.
I actually had that pulled up earlier.
You want to read that? Because literally, this is the root of all of it. So everything goes back to your motive of why you do what you do, so you can do the right thing with the wrong motive and still be judged before the Lord as if you did it wrong because you were selfish about it. So yeah, James 4 is like an if you want to get roasted.
Yeah, I think I even read it last week. I'm going to read it again. So it says, where do wars... I like the New Living Translation just because it's a little more blunt. It says, what is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? Yeah. You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure, you adulterers. Don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? And I say it again, if you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. And I could keep on going because it says God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will exalt you. But I feel like, because
so powerful, there's like so many ways to go with that.
So we can go conspiracy theory, right? Like, which a lot of it is actually becoming true. So it's not even conspiracy theory; it's like research-based truth,
hypothesis.
Yeah, but those who are lived their lives in conspiracy, the reason they do it is oftentimes to explain something that might not be explainable. It's like I always have to have an answer for the problem that is there, and it can become a rabbit hole that we dig. And a lot of times it can feed this like
it's like a distraction from reality.
Yep. And I see so many people get trapped in the rabbit hole of conspiracy, and again, a lot of it is true, but when your lens of living life gets trapped in like a virtual state that's not, it's like, I can remember like diving into it. There was one Sunday as a youth pastor where this guy who had inside information came in, like, I'm not even joking. Like, he came in, some of you guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So he came in and he basically said that all hell was about to break loose, that martial law was going to go into effect.
What year was this?
Was
this 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he came in, he visited our church, I think it was one Sunday, and as a youth, and he's like, it's all happening. It's all happening right now. Like, tomorrow, this is going to break loose, and you're going to see this. I took the bait. And I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So I start telling the youth, like, this is about to happen. Like, it's going to happen. And I've been told that, like, 15 different times. But for whatever reason, I took the bait there. And I'm like, why did I get trapped in that? Yeah. Like, why did I get lost in it?
It's so romantic, like, in a way, in its own way. Like, it's just, yeah.
Yep.
It's because, like, we want to right wrongs and things like that. And I feel like there's good parts in us that get taken advantage of in that way. We're like, hey, we want to right this wrong. We want to help this cause out, like almost like this crusade.
Yeah.
But then sleep in.
You know, Apostle George was in that. It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
So Apostle George was deep into that, and that's part of his exodus out of Facebook, is because he kept getting into these wars in that. And I remember he had basically an answer for a lot of different things. And I've watched him pull back because he's a Trump supporter, and like he pulled back because I let him speak to it, but just kind of get into that rabbit hole, and which distracts a lot of times from the gospel.
Yeah. And it's like he talked about, like, he has a whole book on the motive's the driving force. So for him, I've heard him, and he said this a few times, or him telling you about how certain votes count in a totally different way. So if, say, a Christian votes, that vote is counted differently in heaven, and it's based upon, like, their and I may not be explaining it right, so he may have to help me out with that. But it's like the Lord looks at the motive behind everything, and if your motive is James, is not lining up with James 4, or if James 4 like really describes what you're doing, so it's like, okay, you want Trump to win again, you want Trump to get in, you want gas prices to go down, to spend it on your own lusts. It's like, what are you spending this on? Are you spending this on Starbucks? Are you advancing the kingdom, or are you advancing the kingdom of darkness? Like, do you want to push forth God's kingdom? Are you faithful with what he's given you in this time? Like, have you been faithful, or have you been hoarding? Have you been holding back? Like, has your tithe been affected? Like, that type of thing when things get tough. So like when you get squeezed, you see what comes out, and it's like, so yeah, it's just a really big, like, telltale on things. So
yeah,
motives everything with it.
It's interesting because we can't control things, and a lot of what we attempt to do sometimes is just to control, is try to always have an answer. And I feel like I watched Prophet Jeremiah Johnson go through his battle.
That post from him was huge. I didn't watch it, but I saw the thumbnail. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah,
like, so he basically came out and said he had 3 prophetic words that lined up to a Trump election, being elected to a second term. And as a prophet, we only see in part. We only see through a glass that's...
And he got the first 2 things right. It was the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so we ended up getting Supreme... So it was... The 3 things were going to be this. Amy Barrett was going to be elected to the Supreme Court, and then Dodgers were going to win the World Series, and then there was, what was the third one? Y'all might know it.
That one was the Trump presidency, like Trump would be reelected again, right?
So he had 3 things in a row that would sign it. So it was Dodgers, Amy Coney Barrett, and there was one other thing. But anyway, so 2 of the 3 came true, and so, but the third was Trump's election. And so he basically came out and said he repented for getting it wrong and seeing differently.
Got trashed over that. Like, on both sides, on like every angle you could possibly think of. I don't think I've ever seen someone beat up that bad media-wise for a call.
And I remember, like, even myself and Apostle George were having this conversation, like, why did he give up the word? Like, because you can only see so far. But so he came out with a post. Well, the same prophecies that he had given came true again, but it was now for this election.
Gosh.
So he may not have been wrong. He could have been right, but only seeing in part.
It was the wrong time frame.
Yep. And so a lot of times that even prophetic words that I've received from him personally, I feel like they mean something at this moment, and then they end up meaning completely different things. Like he gave us one word, gave me a word that you're not gathering in the city, I am.
It's powerful.
And so we didn't know what that meant, but in the last 3 years, that has completely changed over and over and over again. And just in our history with him, that's actually, his words have been multi-layered, multifaceted. And so when he came out with the message this week, and he basically said that he didn't care if he was right or wrong. Like, it didn't matter. That it
like
just...
The level of humility for him to post that, though, with that undertone of like, hey, this is what it is, of not defending himself, because it doesn't sound like he defended himself the way you had described the video.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a lot of humility.
And so we came out, and I'm like, dude, you're right. Like, you're right. You might have been right the first time. You might have been right the second time. Yeah, Carrie, something with Lou Engle wasn't it. So he said it was the abortion, women's right. It's something, gosh, what was it? So the Million Woman March was potentially like the abortion y'all probably can correct it. But either way, the humility that the humility that is displayed to not take that on was huge. So when it comes to politics, when it comes to like our place in this, I find that a lot of people have good theories. They have good opinions, and it's rare to see it actually walked out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have, we can get lost in that. So Roe versus Wade. Yeah, okay. Something about gathering to pray. Roe versus Wade. Yep. That's cool. So what else is in your former life that you can share?
Let's, man, what can I talk about with that? There's so much, so much has happened in the past 4 years. It's been wild.
I'll say it this way. You were hardcore in the trenches in this subject. You were underground, working behind the scenes, and I won't give too much away, but like you were behind the scenes.
People will like,
So you've seen a lot more than you can communicate, and a lot more that's true, and a lot of what we're seeing unfold is like even proving it more to be true. But part of what you're communicating is
really hard to watch. Like, it's really hard to watch certain things go on, and you're like,
because you're watching this unfold. So part of what's going on behind the scenes, you know certain things, you've been challenged on certain things, and so as that's unfolding, you've kind of had to sit back and like, that was then, this is now. Meanwhile, knowing maybe networks that exist, knowing the banking system that people are living off the grid, and all these things that are set in place. And the difference between that is what you said is like, we can have a fear-based control approach, but miss character and miss the heart of the matter. Like, and miss, what does it look like to be a good son? What does it look like to be a good father?
I feel like one thing I can share along those lines is like, we would have meetings. And Noah, can you actually pull up the map? See that while we're going. We'd have get-togethers, and we'd have our like friends come together from like different places and things like that, and we would kind of run through basically everyone's inventory of their skill sets. And I kid you not, almost at the very, this is before getting wrecked. I'm like trying to, haven't really thought about this too much since then. But I remember sitting there with someone who's very close to me, and the gospel did not come up the entire time. All of these people, minus 4 or 5 guys that were just like undecided. They weren't against Christianity. They weren't against God, anything like that. Like they were just undecided and just kind of neutral. Like they were cool. They were amazing men. Like been there, done that kind of guys. Like they'd seen a lot, whether they were law enforcement or military or like different backgrounds. But the thing of Jesus like never came up. And I remember crying. And I like didn't know why. And I'm sitting there, and then it came up as like most of these people in here are churchgoers. They are concerned about saving their way of life. And I'm trying not to get angry about this. They're more concerned about that, at least in my experience, the guys that I was involved with who were like examples. They were exemplary. They were the best in their area of what they did. And they were well renowned of good reputation amongst believers and non-believers. They were the examples. They were the standard setters. And as a young man, I desired to be around a council of people who were standard setters. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed like networking and stuff like that, and gleaning and like the brotherhood, the fatherhood, like learning from these different people who have far more experience than I'll probably ever have in these types of things. And last thing on the plate was Jesus. Last thing on the plate was evangelism. First thing on the plate was how do we like stockpile our finances? How do we do this? How do we do that? And it's like, well, you may say, hey, well, we've got to be practical. It's like, yeah, but what are you going to do when you have your practical? Like, what is your motive behind all of this? And a lot of it was just self-preservation. And it was a lot of like ideas and concepts, like you said, but not any like proof in the pudding. Yeah. So coming from a very, very broken person at that time, and still like, coming from a very broken person at the time, it was just heartbreaking to see. It's like, if this is what examples are, if this is what most like Republican supporters are like, because these are like just red-blooded Americans, like amazing men, but the motive is just so like disconnected from like the reality of the kingdom is so disconnected from the reality of, hey, my paycheck or what we've got to do or this earthly kingdom. So it just seemed very backwards, and honestly it seemed very lackluster, where you're like, is this really it? Like, is this all we have to look forward to, and that kind of thing? And like you were saying, like you see things come and go, and hey, the plague, here comes the wolf, there's no wolf there, but the wolf is going to hit like a couple months later. Yep. So it's all a lot of, hey, quick, but a lot of quick burns, but no slow and steady fuses that are just ready to go off at the right time, who are like, they've prepared for battle, like they've trained their hands for war, they've disciplined their body, they've put the right thing in their body, they've got their character in place to withstand something that comes. Like your character is far more important. Like the first thing to go when stuff happens like this is people's character. So if something bad does happen, character goes out the window. You see what's really there, what's really inside people, and then that's where the mess comes from. Usually it's not from a shortage of something necessarily. It can be at times, but most of the time it's character failure before it's a supply chain failure. Yeah. But just seeing Christ on the back burner of everything just makes you really question a lot of people that you seem like, oh, they're really legit, until a little pressure gets put on them. Yeah. So
how hard does this feel right now?
It's a pretty difficult podcast
sucks right now.
Yeah.
This is hard.
This is hard. So like it's almost like I feel like we're out of our wheelhouse. Oh yeah, doing this podcast. So just letting y'all in the chat, like y'all can roast us if you desire to. Yeah, like this is a very difficult podcast to do and be upon, because it's like, let's get in some character development. Let's talk about let's rip up Jezebel, and like hopefully this spirit gets destroyed on this map over the next couple of days. But yeah, it's just a very interesting thing to touch on political stuff. Yep. And we knew we were called to do it, but it's like, this is hard.
And even because with the debate reaction, there was so much that was there. We just could react to the debate. Now there's not really much going on just watching the numbers. But hey, if you can't go to Pennsylvania, right now it's like a dark red.
So explain to do you know, so I don't know a whole bunch about the Electoral College and everything as far as this goes, but it seems like Pennsylvania is a pretty big deal.
Yep. So the goal is to get to 270, and right now they're sitting at Trump at 198 and Kamala at 109. And so each state represents a certain number of electoral votes. And so California has a lot. And the other states, based upon population, I believe it's population, they get a certain amount of votes so that the little man is heard in this vote. So it's not just the populated areas could get all the votes. So each state is represented. So in Pennsylvania, the reason it's a swing state is because it's could go blue or red. And what we're looking at right now, because I don't know what's within the...
It's a whole lot of red right now.
It's a whole lot of red. And what are the numbers? I can't really see. What is it? I can't even read the numbers, actually.
There we go. Noah, can you read them off to us?
So, all right, so looking at 50 points, so we got 1.8 million.
Yeah, for Pennsylvania, it's Trump at 1.8 million at 50.7%, and Harris at 1.7.
And check your mic real quick. Is it on? There we go.
And then, so I don't know if y'all heard that.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear that?
Maybe read that again.
So I'll say, so Donald Trump is at 1.8 million, which is 50.5%. Kamala is at 1.7 million, which is 48.6, and I believe that's 52% reporting. And this is the key race. This one right now, 52% reporting, and so this is going to be one to watch for the rest of the night, honestly. And so we're sitting at 100. Let me go back out myself. So we're sitting at, I believe it's 198. Actually,
wow. Definitely some more Midwest states that are starting to lock in here. Now
they closed. We're 3 hours behind us, so they closed pretty. This is them reporting finally because they closed, and so they're going to start blue, and then they typically will turn more red. I'm not sure why, but it'll start blue and then turn hopefully red. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, this one, sitting back and watching this election is definitely a lot different than the last one. So,
yeah. So, have you voted before?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, last one was 2020 election. So
okay.
that was my first time voting.
Yeah.
So back in the old days, just a young buck, had a few less whiskers. But yeah, that was the first. Man, I was so gung ho. I was so excited to vote in that election.
Yeah.
So it was fun. But yeah, so this is second time.
So she's got, what did she just win? I think she won Oregon. No. Yeah, Oregon. Or, I'm sorry. Colorado. No,
Not
cool.
super surprised about Colorado, just being honest with you. They got some interesting laws over there. So.
Yep.
We love you, Colorado. If you're watching, you're amazing.
All right, so let's. So what have you been struggling with lately?
Well, let's see.
You laughing?
As Noah busts out laughing in the other room.
What's been going on in your heart lately?
Honestly, it's been kind of hard to get my hands around. So, like, I would say there's a lot of pressure and refinement right now, like hardcore. So I feel like the Lord feels so close, but I feel like He is like legitimately trying to kill my flesh right now, hardcore. So I'll just be sitting there and I'm like almost shaking, and it's wild. So it's like whether it's the fear of the Lord, I don't rightly know what it is, or if it's just His presence that's there. Old stuff comes up to the surface, and it's like, maybe you haven't really dealt with some of this as deep as you thought, or kind of like you had expressed earlier of you've dealt with certain layers of certain things, but there's still deeper roots. And one thing He was revealing to me was like generational laziness of, I believe you said it on one of the other podcasts, and then Apostle James had mentioned it well, about like laziness like spiritual laziness basically breeds bondage. Like, so for me, it's like the Lord's been identifying places where I haven't fought as hard as I need to, where it's like there's things that have been hidden. Excuse me. There's things that have been hidden that I haven't necessarily dug for. I've been too scared to dig for. Where I'm like, nah, that's really like that's really scary. Or you just like, for me, whether it's relational stuff with like family, there's a lot of hurt there over the past, whether I've caused or things that have come up that I've had to hold my ground on. The strangest thing to me, and something I'm actually really wrestling with, is points of, specifically with family stuff, where he's been talking to me about, is there's things that I've done that I feel like is really wrong. Like where I've been too hard, or I've been too like, I'm going to stand my ground. And he's like, no, that's me. And I'm like, I can't accept that. Like it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot easier for me emotionally to go, hey, this is, I'll take the fall on that, and then just apologize, and then things can, Yeah. And there's other stuff where it totally was on me, but there's certain things that he's been touching and has been like trying to put back together in me to restore confidence of like, you really did hear from me. Like I really did touch you. I did equip you. I did do these things. I put you on a trajectory that I needed to put you on. And it's okay to be confident in that regardless of how other people took it. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, okay, so things that I have beat myself up about, he's been revisiting and just examining and showing me just a kind of a different side of it, a different, like the three-way mirror, different side of the mirror. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is really uncomfortable. I don't necessarily like it, but
so with me voicing what I was describing earlier. No, you're gonna laugh, Noah. Like I'm just digging here. So, with what I shared earlier and what I'm going through, how hard is it for you to watch me go through the process?
Oh my gosh, it is rough.
Yeah,
it's rough. Like, yeah, it makes me really emotional. So seeing a lot of people like, for a past, would like, oh, you're just worshiping a man. You're just doing what a man told you. It's like, no, we're doing what the Lord told us to do. And he just put us with the right people. And we're going to honor the mess out of the people who he put us with, because it wasn't man who put it together. Like, let what God has put together, let no man separate. That's not just man and wife. That is like the Paul and Barnabases and things like that. And yes, they had their fight and stuff, but it's like what happened to these like covenant lifestyles that people just brush upon. And it's just a deeper thing. So you and I are like, we've been in this for a long time. We've got a lot of things that we've shared together on this journey. So, and as my spiritual father, there's a relationship, there's a bond there that's deep, that honestly, when you get hit, as you were away, I started experiencing I feel like what was similar, I'd say not the exact same thing, but similar symptoms of what you were having, not having talked to you at all. And you're off. So we're not even driving distance. We're not talking. You shut your phone off, like these types of things. And maybe you text every once in a while, but there's things inside of me that I don't have language for. I'm like, what am I going through? Whether it's this intercession or is this just me, like that type of stuff. But yeah, it can be difficult at times, but it's definitely worth it. And I'm in like zealful expectation of the Lord, because like once he starts something, he's going to finish it. So it's like, okay, Lord, let's finish it. Like when you had reached out about something, we were praying from a distance, like just kind of texting and just going with what the Lord was having us pray for. Some things that got dealt with, and then like in my spirit, I knew something wasn't done yet, and I'm like almost zealfully like, let's get this done. If we're gonna rip the Band-Aid off, let's rip the Band-Aid off. So
it's interesting, like to go a little bit deeper. So
I don't know if that's the direction you're wanting.
No, that's it. So like with way this relationship works, and the way some, like just with media team, like there's a closeness that's there, and some of you might be able to identify this. Like sometimes you experience things that is yours, sometimes it's other people, and there's this intercession that's there.
Where's the feelers at? In the chat.
So the world's term would be, I'm an empath. Like feeler. Like legit, you're experiencing what other people experience. But one of the ways that our relationship works is, so I was sensing that I needed to pray through something, and I knew there was a battle that was coming. I didn't like the battle that it was, and so you send me a prophetic picture of what
of something I did not want to send you. I'm like, let
what I
this
was about
not
to
be
fight.
the Lord, please no. Like, this is not a text I want to send.
Like literally what I was about to fight,
Oh,
and
man.
you sent it, and I was like, I don't want to fight. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. Where's Darren?
Darren.
I don't want to. So it's like, I don't want to fight this. And I mean, I've learned that you're accurate with what you see. So I was like, crap, I don't want to face this. So, but when we battled it, we didn't get to really finish it. It was kind of put on pause or whatever. But when I come back and I'm going through the process that I'm going through, like, it's hard because I'll ask this. What does honor mean to you?
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to the election reaction, where we don't talk about the election and we'll react to something.
There's a lot of reaction right now. Man, what is honor?
Yeah,
like
what is honor?
Like a definition of honor, or man, I don't think I've had to put it to words necessarily in this way. So, oh my gosh.
What is honor? What does it look like? What have you learned about it? That kind of deal.
Believing the best. So there's some deep revelation, and I say deep, not deep revelation necessarily, deep definitions and like deep experiences with this. So scripturally we're supposed to outdo each other with honor. And there's no greater love than this, than a man lay his life down for his brother. So when the Lord puts you with people, like whenever you and I, our paths cross, it was nothing logical about it. Like, we experienced the same thing, different times. The Lord put us together. That was neither one of our doings. But when we got on that phone call after you reached out, Brianna text, it was like 10 seconds on the phone, and it was like, bam. It was like, this has got the Lord all over it. And I'm like trembling right now. But so many people don't understand honor because they are not locked in on what the Lord has had them to do. So it was not very dramatic, but I had an encounter that changed my life. I had a moment where I'm like, okay, God's real. And I knew he was real, but he showed up as real. Something happened, stuff shifted, demons are real. I started seeing, and I'm like, wait, through Jesus' name, we have power over this, and there's far deeper. But the biggest thing to me was he put a new heart in me, like he did with Saul. He's like, you're going to go amongst the prophets, you're going to prophesy, like the new heart's going to be put in you. And like Saul fell off, and he missed it. But he had the miracle of a heart being put in it. I feel like I got a heart transplant. Like, I went from 17 or 18 years of like total inoculation, like trauma, coping, wounding, finding identity in other stuff, like materialism, like chasing dreams, chasing business, the American dream. These are all great and dandy, but they will not fix your heart. And so I got to experience all these things that will still fall flat on its face. It doesn't matter how like good of a family you have. It will not carry you where it needs to carry you in that way. Like, the Lord has to do certain things. So when he knocked on the door, I said, okay, I give up. I'm done trying. You've got the reins. Where are we going? I've tried my way. It has not worked out. And I don't have the craziest testimony, but it was extremely real to me. It happened. And then almost immediately he put me with you. And I'm like, I love this man. Absolutely. And yeah, it's kind of hard to put into words just because of the type of stuff we've been through.
Yeah.
But I would have to say believing, I digress a bit, but believing the best, love always hopes. So if you can always hope the best about somebody, you'll honor them. So if I'm like constantly going, what's his motive? What's he doing? Why does he want to have a podcast? Why does he want to do all these reels? If I'm doing that rather than going, hey, Lord, what have you called us to do? And going, okay, that's what you called him to do? Cool. Have you called me to be a part of it? Yes. Okay, cool. His mission's my mission. Let's go. Like that kind of thing, hoping and just letting the Lord sort it out. We want to a lot of people want to put your hands on stuff so soon that you won't let the Lord birth anything. So yeah, just sitting back, letting him do it and believing the best. So it's difficult to put to words. So hopefully some of that made sense.
100%.
Yeah.
Why don't we check in? Let's see what Fox News is doing right now, or any other news. Watch it be a commercial again. Every time we go, there's a commercial.
My colleague Austin Westfall in the Live Now newsroom.
Now, is that
and New York
current?
Post's A.G. Gankarski,
or is that where it left off
he
at?
joins us as well.
Yeah,
We'll start with
live.
Austin.
Okay.
Austin, we were trying to get through where the battleground states lie right now as far as the presidential contest is concerned. What do they?
Let's go through them. So let's start up.
It's great timing.
in
Yes.
Wisconsin. Let's just go with what the AP is calling for now. 53% of the vote so far tallied, according to the Associated Press. That's a tight race. 49.5% to 49%. Trump up by 1/2 of a percentage point in Wisconsin. Moving over to Michigan, which is currently, and it's light blue, but if you really look at the results, that's a dead tie, 49.1 to 49.1. It looks like we just lost that. Let's move on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, considered the most pivotal battleground state, 19 electoral votes up for grabs in the Keystone State. Right now, Trump has a roughly over 100,000 vote lead over Kamala Harris right now. So we're looking at Trump having just under 3 points of a lead versus Harris right now. That's the most important battleground. Going down to North Carolina. We're getting in a little
Come on, North Carolina, you can do it.
83%
Make the right choice.
of the votes have been tallied in the Tar Heel state.
Wow, 83%.
And right now, Trump has just over a 2.5%
Come on.
lead. Going further south to Georgia, 88%. So we've been speaking all night about preliminary results, Andrew. We can toss that out now when we're talking about states like this. Georgia has 88% of the votes tallied. Trump with 51.3%. Harris with 48.1. I'm going to zoom out again because we've been saying all night, Trump's easiest path to victory, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. Still a lot of votes to be counted in Pennsylvania, but for now we're seeing that Trump has a slight margin, especially in Georgia here. We're starting to see some of these counties really fill in. Not surprisingly, seeing this kind of blue blob in the Atlanta metro, but then we see all of these bright red and dark red rural counties that are pretty much balancing out, if not overcoming, some of what we're seeing in some of these larger cities, specifically the Atlanta metro. Let's zoom back out just to make sure that we hit every battleground state that we can. Arizona's the other one. 50% of the votes in here. So half of the vote tallied. Most of this coming from Maricopa County. Maricopa County is most of the ball game in the Grand Canyon State.
Where
right now,
last year
we've got a dead
Arizona
tie,
was
49.6
a great point of contention.
49.6. Interesting to say the least, Andrew, as this map gets filled out. Let's ask AG about it.
So, AG, thanks so much for being with us. AG with the New York Post, of course. What can we glean from some of these battleground states here? Is it accurate to say that some are too close to call? Not Georgia, is it?
You know, I think Georgia is trending toward Trump, but the thing I'm noticing is that blue wall is looking like it's going to crack. I mean, you know, what's happening in Michigan, what's happening in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. It's going to come down to late returns from these like bigger cities, but you know, really, it's looking more like 2016 than 2020, and you know that's kind of remarkable for people who thought that Harris, you know, had a pathway that you know was more like Biden's in 2020. It's looking much more like Trump's got the 2016 coalition. You know, men are coming out to vote for him. And this is really a remarkable political comeback in the making by Donald Trump, because I think a lot of people looked at this a few weeks back and said there was no way he can make inroads in the blue wall. And there was a lot of thought to say Jill Stein would be a bigger factor in a place like Michigan. She hasn't been as of yet. So this is just Trump versus Harris, like, R versus D. But, Trump is really, he's really driving it right now.
So, AG, I've got Pennsylvania up right now. 51% of the vote so far is going for Trump. He has roughly a 3-point lead over Harris. 57% of the vote has been counted. Let's talk about what is considered the most pivotal battleground state here. There is still 43% of the vote to be tallied. What are we going to be watching for as we get that 43% of the vote in?
Philadelphia County, because that is predominantly Democratic. I think in 2020 was more than 80% for Joe Biden. And you expect similar margins with Kamala Harris, but the question is always turnout. Like, how many people actually turn out to vote? How many votes are counted in, the coming days? It's not just what we see tonight, but we'll see what we see in the next couple of days as well. So, a Trump lead, say 3 o'clock in the morning isn't necessarily safe in Pennsylvania because of Philadelphia County primarily. The rest of the state, Trump's got an advantage in it, but that's machine politics.
That would be a long night staying out at one of these events.
Works a little gradually.
Especially already.
And it looks a bit rougher from the outside, where people are saying, why haven't these votes been counted already? You've got late votes. You've got precincts that take a while to count for whatever reason. You've got anomalies that happen in the counting process, all kinds of things. So people will be watching that one over the next couple of days for sure.
Okay, so AG, we have a live picture there at the Harris Walls watch party. You said there are indications of 2016 vibes, so to speak, when Hillary Clinton lost. Do you see any of that on the faces of some of these Harris Walls supporters here? Because I want to ask you this. The question going into the night was whether or not we would know a winner in the presidential contest tonight. Do you think we will, or will it take till tomorrow morning?
I think it's going to take a day or two before we have something where we can say somebody's going to be the winner.
Iowa.
I just don't think that we're going to have enough of the count in tonight, especially in those blue wall states, to really figure it out. I think Arizona may take a little bit of time too.
Trump.
It looks a little close.
207 now,
also.
actually.
So, between those states, you've got
63 more. Keep going.
Between the four. That's a lot of suspense. So, expecting a winner before you go to bed tonight, I think is a little bit unrealistic. But the trend right now is Donald Trump. It's looking good for him. But, you have to consider that the late vote, that the late counted vote, the mail vote, things like that is going to trend Democratic. And, so any margin that Trump has at, 10:41 Eastern time may not hold, when we wake up in the morning.
Let's talk about Detroit. I want to talk about Michigan.
We
talked so much about
name.
some of these southern states, and we've been talking about Pennsylvania. Let's talk about Michigan. And I'm going to just kind of zoom in on Detroit here, because that's one of the largest Arab American populations in the country. When we focus in and we go in on what is, and let's just make sure we get this correct here, we're focusing in on the area where Detroit is. So Wayne County is what we're talking about here, AG. So right now, Wayne County is showing that Trump is up 61% to 37.5%. We're talking about Trump having a commanding victory so far with 24% of the votes in. 24% may not sound like a lot, but what do you make of what we're seeing out of this county so far?
It really comes down to the precincts that are coming in, because a county in and of itself isn't necessarily the thing. There are precincts in the counties that will tell you what the real story is that's happening. And, when you're watching the precinct data being dumped in,
back out of that,
that can move these totals.
We're going to take a commercial break. We got something a little special for you guys. So we're going to take how long is this one?
About 5 minutes.
About 5 minute break. watch this commercial that the guys put together, and we'll be back. The Lord had brought me here for a very specific purpose. I did not ask to be here. So we are here in Spokane, about to head to get our rental car and then going off to, I believe it's called Newport. I think is what it's called. But we just flew 5 hours. You know, it was pretty interesting because there's just a different perspective. Anytime you get up in the clouds and you get above all the noise, it just tangibly feels like you get closer to the Lord. Something hit me on the way down. Like as we were going down, it was like a mantle or some sort of just anointing hit, and it hit me as soon as we started the descent on the way down. This is an interesting trip. It's totally by faith. Tomorrow starts day one. Don't really have light on what we're about to walk into. We're asked to be there around 9 to possibly spend about an hour and a half ministering to 17-year-olds. So we're going to be expectant for anything, not even sure. So by faith, through faith, the grace is there, the anointing's here. So we're just going to step into it. But we are going to bed, so I'll see you on the flip side. So we had plans again for today. We were headed to Bear Claw Camp, and it was we just thought that we were going to be ministering today at 9 a.m. and then possibly again maybe at lunch, and then a campfire tonight at 8. And so those plans got switched. And so Christian and I are like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? And so we went to eat, and like, let's just go for a drive. I've been on mission trips probably 20 times, and they're all different. And usually they're involving some sort of expectation that maybe doesn't get met. And for me, it's a lot of like deliverance. I wonder if it's getting me out of me. You know, as this process is unfolding for myself and our media team, we keep receiving prophecy after prophecy about what the Lord is going to do. But as we're receiving these prophecies and even confirmations, and prophets and pastors and apostles are literally communicating what the Lord is doing, it's been said that the Lord is privatizing us It's like we're in his covering. We're hidden right now. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Don't necessarily have full light on what it actually means. I just know that in the Lord's timing, the videos like this and the content that we're producing, that it will reach whoever it needs to reach, whenever it needs to reach them. You know, we never started this journey to get views. There's always that temptation to measure whether it's successful or not. But we're here now because of a Jezebel video. One video, maybe out of 600 videos that we did, reached 300,000 people. But one person saw it and decided to put on a festival and asked me to come about 6 to 8 months ago. And so that one video has brought us to this point where we're going to a festival tomorrow. And I'll get 20 minutes to share whatever the Lord's put on my heart. And it's wild. And we're back.
We're back.
Ta-da. All right, so we're at 210 and 113. As you heard the reporters say, just the analysts say that well, I just actually read on social media that Pennsylvania may be called tonight, but most likely not. But it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. To be honest, like we weren't sure what we were getting ourselves into. The debate was really different.
That one was really fun.
Because there was nothing but them talking, and it was a true reaction. Now we're literally just hanging out with you, and there's not as much reporting on this that I thought there would be. Hey, maybe go to Tucker Carlson while we're talking and see if there's anything that he's doing on YouTube. And let's just listen to him.
Quick plug of him getting mauled by demons.
Yeah.
Gah. Such a good story.
Never taken any money from the man. Just want to be clear about that.
Tucker.
But a pivotal figure, not just in this election, but in the history of this country, is Elon Musk. And who was just walked in with his son. So cute. It's ridiculous.
That's perfect. Okay, we're listening in.
That kid. Oh, hey, what are you doing?
Okay, this is amazing.
Okay, I guess so.
Is that his dad?
All right, well, got mini-me here.
It certainly is.
Mini-me, you complete me.
What's your name? What's your name?
Actually, we're not going to show you. And then there's this
We're on TV.
I think it is.
Now, the question is that his son or?
Should we help President Trump?
Yeah.
Well, you have.
Oh my gosh.
It looks like.
Precious.
I mean, it looks.
I started this, the quiet lead.
I don't know what you're saying, X. But you're getting. His
name's X.
That's X.
Yeah,
We're in
You got the
space acts and quietly just do whatever we want.
This is amazing.
I like your laugh. That's a laugh of an honest man.
Yeah.
I think this. What's your assessment? Is this?
That's
did this
precious.
work? Is he going to win?
Yeah, it is. Not for now. No. Really.
I think it's done.
You think it's done?
Yeah.
But not for now.
Not for long. So where are we? 89. I mean, okay. So it's 10:52. It's a little earlier than Obama told us we're gonna have to wait a month or something.
Okay, somebody. I like his kid, but somebody.
Look at the data as it comes in from every county in Pennsylvania, and.
Oh, he can tell us. It's all right.
And it seems extremely likely that, if not a certainty, that
So then we're done.
done.
I mean, are you surprised? Because I'm shocked by how quickly this happened.
I'm not particularly surprised because the
No.
Okay, somebody get the kid, because I really want to hear him.
Here we go. So he's saying
Sammy
he thinks he's
Timo,
done.
oh, she's so nice. You don't need to worry. She's really nice.
Wow.
So let's
So
see.
cute.
So I think more relevant than the polls is looking at the early voting data. And if you look at the early voting data in Pennsylvania, for example, and you compare the Republican minus Democrat vote across all of the swing states, but certainly in Pennsylvania, the delta was, as of this morning, I believe 602,000. So meaning like the relative to 2020.
Right.
So if you say like, okay, how is President Trump doing relative to 2020?
That's the question.
The difference in early voting was over 600,000. The margin of victory, Biden's margin of victory in 2020 was only 80,000, which so a reasonable extrapolation, assuming that, let's assume that the in-person voting is no better than 2020, then you would expect a margin of victory for President Trump of approximately 500,000.
Right.
So
I don't think
you
he actually
necessarily need
followed
to be
it.
like some incredible prognosticator if you just look at the data.
But they were telling us, on CNN.
Well, they'll.
But why particularly? What was the point of
I mean,
lying about it? Which
Well, I don't know if they
Watching
lie.
by
Maybe they just don't
CNN.
understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been posting on X about this.
I
I literally
know.
post the charts and I post the data. I'm just looking at
But
the data.
how could Trump win? I mean, after they indicted him, he's a rapist, he's a criminal. I mean, they've been attacking Trump like every day for 9 years, and he wins bigger this time than in 2016 against a candidate who's outspending him 3-1 all in. How could that happen?
Wow.
No, it's remarkable. In fact, it's not just
Kamala's outspinning him 3-1.
Wow.
that the Kamala machine, puppet machine campaign
Yeah.
is outspending. It's not the Dems are massively outspending the Republicans in the swing states, including any contribution that I make. But you also have the sort of legacy mainstream media, which is overwhelmingly in favor of Kamala. They might as well be an extension of the DNC.
Well, they are.
Yeah. The DNC just sends them whatever the talking points are, and they all just talk like NPCs essentially all day long, instantly. And then you've also got, God knows how many celebrity endorsements. I mean, it's like sort of running out of is anyway, 80%,
P. Diddy
90%
party.
of celebrity endorsements on the Dem side. So you basically you have what appears to
we've
be
got
a
something for
deck
that, right?
that is very much stacked in favor of the Dem. Like you said, how can a Republican win at all?
There it is, right there.
Watch the video.
Now, I mean, one of the things that we did do to kind of even the odds was we massively improved the Republican ground game, My America PAC. Massively improved the Republican ground game in the swing states. So the Democrats not only have the best ground game, just in terms of knocking on doors, talking to people, sounds simple. Just having a good sort of word of mouth virality campaign, having
that
good
Yeah.
I'm looking at 91 and
messaging
210.
that appeals to
113, 210.
people's specific interests. It just and then making sure people get to the polls. Just make sure that people have transport. The
It's like the
Democrats are normally
perfect
extremely
timing.
good with getting
Yes.
making it convenient. Because for a lot of people, it's just, if they'll vote, it's just maybe they don't have a ride. you
Yeah.
know? So we just made sure everyone had a ride. We made sure that we paid particular attention to the Amish community in Pennsylvania.
It's amazing.
This guy's
why
Had
I
anyone
mean,
ever gotten the Amish out to vote before?
not in significant numbers.
That's brilliant.
But the Democrats did make a mistake because there was government overreach and with some of the Amish farmers.
Yes.
They're just for them. There's no such thing as like organic farming or not organic. They're farmers. They've been farming the same way for a long time. And there was some just government overreach that shut down some Amish farmers, which really made them pretty upset. And you just need to be able to channel that, the fact that they're upset, and like, well, there's a thing you can do about it, which is called voting, and we're happy to, transport you to. They're allowed to ride in vans as long as they're not driving the van. So we're just making sure we bring them to the polls and they vote
cool.
how they want to vote, which
That's
is going to be
pretty
like
cool.
99.9%. Actually, call it 100.
Call it 100 at least.
Call it 100.
So these are
In
raw
favor of
milk
Trump.
producers.
Yeah.
So you
Wow.
endorsed Trump within minutes of him being shot. I mean,
Yeah.
how many? I mean, it was literally minutes, I think, as I remember.
Yeah.
And then you just
Yeah.
went more all in than I've ever seen anybody ever.
Yep.
He just came
Yeah.
out of the woodwork.
What was the? Did you
Being
ever doubt,
RFK, like,
or did
to
you just
me,
decide
that
to go
was
on and just did
brilliant.
it?
I
It's like a dream
my
team.
philosophy
Joe
is
Rogan.
You play to win.
Oh,
You don't
he
play it
fits
by
in
half
there.
measure. So, yeah, I mean, as with the team, every day, 7 days a week, just working the early votes in Pennsylvania and other swing states. First registrations. First, like, if people don't register, they can't vote. So the initial focus was just maximizing registrations, and then once the registration deadline was over, just getting the early votes. Yeah.
X, from my perspective, played a pivotal role not just in this election, but in keeping the country alive.
Yeah. Well, X is, I think, the one place where you can find out the truth.
Yes.
And
The only
He was
place.
talking
Yeah.
about that if this election
So how much pressure
goes for Kamala,
to
that
extent you
X
can
won't
say,
exist.
has there been on you
They'll close it down.
to shut it
And
down,
He said they have
to censor it?
a way to do it, too.
well, I mean, apart from the multiple Democrats saying that I should go, they want to put me in jail, take away all government contracts from my companies, nationalize my companies, deport me as an illegal, and have me arrested because I'm apparently Putin's best friend. Nothing besides those things.
So you saw what Rachel Maddow sort of casually, who's the single most popular media figure on the left,
Yeah.
for the record, say just sort of casually, well, Elon Musk will obviously need to be separated from his companies. He can't be he can't hold government contracts going forward. Like, how do you respond to that?
Rachel Maddow is a crazy person. She's just a frothing at the mouth, crazy
Musk is currently
fascist,
worth
basically.
just under
Dressed as
260
sort of
billion
pretending to be a
US.
liberal, but she's just really like
260 billion.
yeah.
I can't imagine
259.9
imagine if she
billion.
was in charge, actually in a position of political power. What a nightmare that would be.
Well, many would die.
Yes.
So do you expect the pressure will lessen now that Trump?
I mean, we'll
seems to be
see. I mean,
winning?
certainly last time President Trump was elected, I mean, I think they tried to impeach him within like 20 minutes of him taking office.
Yes.
141.
This
145
time, I don't know. We'll see.
That's a big jump.
They may.
Oh, California.
I don't think they'll be quite as
In Washington,
intense
or
as
was
last
it
time.
already there?
No, not yet.
Because I think
I got 179
I think
now.
we actually have a decent chance here of a significant
there's
victory,
Washington.
not a small victory.
Yes.
And at the point at which you clearly just have the public mandate, then you have the public mandate. I mean, I think the numbers I've seen we're close to winning the popular vote in addition to the electoral vote, even
Yes.
though there's basically been zero campaigning in California, which is the biggest state in the country. So, sometimes people say, "Oh, the Republican didn't win the popular vote." I'm like, that's because he wasn't trying. If you actually try to win the popular vote, I think you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't take that much. I think it made a big difference that President Trump and soon-to-be Vice President Vance went on lengthy podcasts.
Yes.
I think this makes it like this really makes
So
a
if
difference.
you're just joining
because,
us, we are watching
people look
Tucker
at
Carlson
like Joe Rogan's podcast, which
interview
is
Elon
great,
Musk
and
while
Lex
we're watching
Friedman's and
the
the All-In
election
podcast.
go down.
And to a reasonable-minded, smart person who's not like hardcore one way or the other, they just listen to someone talk for a few hours, and that's how they decide whether you're a good person, whether they like
Yes.
you, and especially like Rogan's podcast, 3 hours long. I mean, you could. This is why I actually posted on X like the nothing would do more damage to Kamala's campaign than going on Joe Rogan, because she'd run out of non sequiturs after about 45 minutes.
You can't hide in 3 hours.
Yeah, like hour 2 and 3
Rogan
would be
have a
complete
time.
melted puddle of nonsense. So it would just be absolute game over. That's why I shouldn't go on.
So I mean, how does?
But Trump? But on the hand, Trump he's there, and there's no talking points. He's just being a normal person. He's having a conversation. And
I love how
3
these
hours of
guys
Rogan, no
are
problem.
so confident they'll just sit in silence. It's amazing.
I think he's a very interesting, funny person, and much maligned by the media, obviously. And he's withstood a lot, and I think he's. You mentioned that as you mentioned, I endorsed him immediately after he was shot, because when you see somebody under
Michelle, California
fire,
says
what is their reaction to that? Because
is counting.
Immediately, is someone brave,
Yeah,
or are
somehow
they
have the
okay, the bullets, they get hit by bullets, blood come down the face.
Whatever reason,
it
they know they're losing
shooter,
it. So I'm not sure.
Wow,
it's a really good point.
He's going fight. That's
Harris
true.
is at 179, Trump at 214.
Impossible.
And America
Look
is
at that picture in the background.
The home of the free and land of the brave. So that's who we want as president.
It was so.
We want a strong, brave person as president.
Amen.
And he is that.
Commander in Chief.
How are you going to be involved?
Military position.
Well, I've said I'd be happy to help improve the government efficiency. Obviously, Department of Government Efficiency.
Can you imagine that?
Which, I think it's
I would be
sorely
impressed
needed.
and concerned all the same
We've
time.
got a gigantic government bureaucracy. We've got
so with Twitter, he reduced
overregulation. You've got
their staff
agencies
by
that have overlapping
68%,
responsibilities,
and they never skipped a beat.
There's something like 450
7,500 employees dropped down to like
agencies.
2,400.
Almost 2 per year that company since America was founded. So I mean, we're just creating
That's
new
impressive.
agencies all the time, and it's getting to the point where basically everything's illegal. You just can't get anything done.
I've noticed.
And this translates to these become real costs to people. They're hidden costs, but they're very substantial. It's very hard to build new housing if you're burdened with massive requirements that don't make any sense. It drives up the housing cost. It slows down new housing starts. So we need to let the builders of America build.
Amen.
Yeah.
So you're not going to the
the
gulag,
builder.
it turns out.
Well, not immediately. I mean, maybe in
where?
5 years. I don't know. They might be probably pretty grumpy about this one. But I think I got at least several years before I go to the gulag.
Well, congratulations. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
Amazing.
I want to
Here's
hear
to
them walk
fantastic
back
people.
how he knows
Elon
it's
Musk, thank you.
done.
Thank
I know
you.
it's Pennsylvania, but
And thank you. See you, man.
that's so cool.
Wow.
To even see him with his son.
Can't
was
top
pretty
that.
special. Mm-mm.
We're going to go see Trump and join in the celebration. Thank you.
Sweet. Nice. Wow. Let's go to the map. Actually, go to Fox News and let's see if anything's there. And if not, we might. California, of course.
The gulag.
Like, you can't do anything to a man that's not bald.
Going to Kamala Harris, and then also in Oregon as well, going for Kamala Harris. And I also want to talk now about California as we're learning that information about the Senate, a key race with Dianne Feinstein's seat being open. The
Wow,
late
I haven't heard
Dianne
that name in a long time.
As this one going for Adam Schiff over Steve Garvey, the former Dodger, the former Padre. Adam Schiff moving chambers from the House to the Senate as he takes over that seat. So big news in terms of the Senate as the Democrats, they keep that seat blue. We'll talk more about the balance of power and everything to do with it. But let's continue on. Let's slide away for a quick 2-minute break. We'll get you more live pictures, different speeches. We're expecting to hear from Adam Schiff, likely Steve Garvey, within the hour, just based on the fact that this was called so quickly after polls closed there in that state. We'll have much more here on Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back.
So let's go to the map. We'll just kind of bring this to a close. I think we're going to probably wrap this live stream up, unless you guys anything else. But so we're sitting. So the Senate, we're at 48 to 39. What's the House at? 159, 107. So an ultimate victory obviously would be presidency, the Senate, and the House. Then
Clean
we
sweep.
literally, like, we've got no really restrictions that are there. So why don't we just like end in a prayer? As we sit at 214, Kamala's at 179. As we prepare for to head into bed and to wake up, with the results. Just like I was speaking about earlier, our job as far as voting, it's done, but our responsibility of prayer, of fasting, of interceding, again, for various scenarios as President Trump, as he steps into this presidency, we pray for him as he transitions, pray for protection, wisdom, and that he would just get filled even more with the Holy Ghost, and that God would just arrest him, that his heart, and when you just pray that, Jesus, we just ask that your heart, we first of all lift up President Trump, we lift up Kamala. God, she's somebody's sister, she's somebody's family member, and if we were in that position, God, we just ask that you would send people in her way, that her heart would be turned towards you, that the Jezebel spirit would be arrested and exposed and dealt with, that she would be rescued out from the demonic bondage that she's in. God, she's just a puppet, and she is playing the game. She's being propped up, and I just feel like she's in some way just being prostituted. She's just being used. And I ask that you would help her, just if there's a hardness of heart, which there is, that it would be shifted to a heart of flesh, that she would become born again. Same thing with President Trump, that he would just fall deeply in love with you, that he would be radical for you, that he would protect and to steward the rights of the church, the protection of the unborn, that the Christian values that we hold true, the Christian values that this nation was founded upon, that they would be protected. Now, we lift up this country. We ask for your mercy.
Yeah.
We ask for your mercy, that your mercy would go before us, that your mercy would allow the church the grace to be sifted so that the true remnant can come out from hiding and come out, that the wheat would be sifted and shifted from the tare, the sheep from the goats, that we would see the true body of Christ arise, the true prophetic voices, those apostolic voices would stand set apart and uncompromisingly proclaim the gospel, that all 7 mountains, that in business, in education, whatever the mountains that are needed the most, that they would be overwhelmed with Christian businessmen and businesswomen that would be supported and financed, that finances that are needed to carry out the gospel would be switched from corrupt hands to those that are pure and set apart. I just declare that your will be done tonight, and that if there's any corruption, that it would be exposed. If there is any mismanagement of mishandling, that over the next couple months, that you would just let the church see. Let your spirit be poured out upon those who are hungry.
Yeah.
And so we submit this to you. Just declare that you King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and we honor you, we glorify you, we submit this to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
And Braden did say as well, it said no, at 11:30 they're going to go live with Trump on Fox as well.
Really?
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to be close to their start time or not. So it's going to be pretty
cool.
interesting.
That's awesome. Well, we love you guys. Thanks for hanging with us on this unique kind of random edition of the Recovering Baptist podcast. And
It's
so
fun.
we love you guys, and we'll see you next week at 9 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday night. And look, if you want to sew in, you want to support, it's $, The Recovering Baptist. Visit us at our website, TheRecoveringBaptist.com. Purchase our merch. And I'll preemptively, I'm going to preemptively do this.
There's the hat.
Preemptively do the Trump.
Prophesy.
Now I'm going to do this prophetically, okay? In Jesus' name. This is such a ghetto hat.
I love it.
I won this one 5 or 6 years ago. It was stolen from me. Legit, it was stolen from me, and we got it back.
Amen.
Yep.
I love it.
So we love you guys. We'll see you next week on the Recovering Baptist podcast. Good night.
Hey guys, welcome to the studio. Wanted to give you a quick tour. This is where all the editing happens. We've got one of our main desks here. This is actually my personal desk. Braden is editing one of our services. And then we have the big computer over here, which is an Alien Aurora R12. This is where the podcast runs through. We've run it through vMix. Right now we're running Canva and CapCut for Reels, and then we've got our confidence monitor and monitor extension up there, and then that vertical TV is where we see all of our comments, so we can be in here relaxing and seeing all your comments and seeing all the engagement too. For our sound, we've got a Rodecaster Pro 2 handling that, and then an Elgato Stream Deck for our camera switcher. We've got all 3 cameras hooked up there. Now, and here is where the podcast happens. This is our studio room. We got our Shure SM7Bs hooked up with assorted lighting. We got our small rig RC220Bs up here. These are fantastic, and they're bicolor. From the captain's chair here, we have our 3 cameras. These are our Lumix GH5s, and then we have our confidence monitors so we can see ourselves and then see your comments over here on the right side, just like in the main room. Then we have our teleprompter for doing reels. Back here, of course, we have our lights, our backdrop, and then our nice LED neon sign looking Recovering Baptist sign. So if you'd like to sew into what we're doing here, you can do that at TheRecoveringBaptist.com. You can also sew into us via Cash App. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.